John Linke here, and I'm with my friend, and I can say longtime friend. We haven't really played together that much, but I've known you for a lot of years. I've admired, I can't say the word I was going to say. I admire you greatly.
Oh, well.
I really do. And lately, I've had the pleasure of working with you. And it's been
Certainly some more.
yeah, we will. I'm so hopeful that we will. I know we will. We're going to talk a little bit about perspectives in jazz music, what makes the art what it is. I'd like to start off first, though, with just asking Sam here a bit about your history. You know, like how do you come to this music, your early education, etc.
Well, I was born here in Milwaukee,
Okay.
Wisconsin,
Yeah.
and I went to the public schools,
Okay.
product of Milwaukee Public Schools.
Yeah.
I first started got interested in music about the age of 8.
Oh, okay, very early.
And so typically in the public schools, you start out on
Sax. Yeah, yeah.
And so we began there, and I took up clarinet. That was the first instrument I took up. It was about in the fourth grade.
Okay, yeah.
That was okay for a while, but I got interested in playing drums
Yeah.
pretty early. So I self-taught
Okay,
for maybe about a year.
okay.
Yeah.
When you say self-taught, do you mean like listening to records and stuff like that,
Well,
copying things off of the record?
No, it was
or?
listening, and I got a book. I actually got a book and
Okay,
started out on snare drum.
okay, so
It was-
rudiments.
Right. It was actually inspired by another young man that was in the classroom, the same classroom. He had
Yeah.
started playing drums.
Sure.
I was really, fascinated by what
Yeah.
he was doing.
Wanted to be kind of like him.
Yeah,
in a way,
kind of
yeah.
like that. Yes,
Yeah.
certainly. So got a book and started on the snare drum. Then I started having a Saturday lessons.
Okay.
Started in the Saturday lesson program. Then I went to Rufus King.
Okay.
When I got into Rufus King, I was it was fortunate for me that I was able to get in the music program
Okay.
right away in
Yeah.
high school. It was
Okay.
pretty unheard of, but
As a freshman.
as a freshman. So I got in high school right away, and so I was in marching band,
Mhm.
orchestra.
Okay. So at this time, would you call it you were taking like snare lessons, like legitimate lessons,
yeah,
quote unquote?
Yeah, it was percussion, more
Okay.
percussion.
Yeah.
So we were, I did all the marching band music and
Okay.
learning how to read and stuff all
Right.
at the same time. But like in maybe the end of the freshman year,
Mm-hmm.
I started listening to jazz,
Nice.
and I was begging my parents for a drum set, at
Yeah,
this time.
yeah.
And so I got my first drum set it was on, God, it's a church now. It still might be a church, but it was like 3rd and the street just south of Garfield. I
Okay.
can't remember exactly. If it might
St.
be
Elizabeth?
No.
It's not St. Elizabeth.
Mm-mm. No. It's there's a restaurant called the Bayou
Okay.
that's across the street. And the building's still
Still
there,
there?
but it was a music store.
Oh,
Many
okay.
years ago, it was a music store. So I got my first drum set
Yeah.
there, actually.
Pretty exciting.
But really, before that, I pieced up a drum set.
Okay.
I had an old snare drum
Yeah.
and one of those bass drums from the 1920s.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was two-tone.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
wasn't modern enough, but it got me
Right.
started,
Exactly.
with the cymbal
Sure.
on the bass drum.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So, the first song that I heard, first song that I learned, actually was Take 5.
Woo. Yeah.
and that was kind of hard to do.
Yeah.
But it was fun.
Plus, you were hearing it all the
Yeah.
time on the radio because that was a big hit.
Yeah. Oh,
Literally, the
yeah.
hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was the first jazz tune,
Yeah.
actually.
Interesting.
Which I did learn by ear.
Yeah.
By ear. And so that sparked my interest in the music. All through high school, though, I played R&B,
Mm-hmm.
and we were playing at that time Blood, Sweat and Tears, Sly and the Family Stone,
Yeah.
Chicago,
Yeah.
all of that stuff
Okay.
we were playing. And
So was that in the 1969 year, late
late
60s?
from like 65
Okay.
through early through 70.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was playing in bands in high school.
CYO dances and things like that, maybe, and school dances.
Yeah, school dances, but you know I was playing a lot, so
Yeah.
they were sneaking me into the bars.
Yeah. Okay.
So I
That's
was
when that
playing-
started. Huh?
Right.
Yeah.
So I was playing in some of the clubs at a
Right.
pretty young age, you know,
Right.
so forth. And I never I won't experience playing behind. I won't forget playing behind Satin Down
Yes.
as like 18 or 19
Yeah.
years old.
Well, you
She
did
had to
hit
be a
this.
stripper.
Yeah. Yeah. And she
So-
had the club down on Fond.
She
Oh.
was before Fond du Lac.
Oh.
This was
Okay.
on 3rd Street. It
Oh,
was actually
wow. Yeah.
right north of Center.
Okay.
On
Right.
3rd Street, and before it used to be a studio, Dave Kennedy.
Oh,
at
his
music
first studio.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a bank in that building now.
Okay.
But the club was right there, and all the Seven Sounds and stuff all played
Yeah.
there for a
Sure.
long time before Satin Down actually moved on Fond du Lac.
Okay. Right.
So I was quite involved in playing
Yeah,
through high school.
so you at a very young age were getting exposed to
Right.
senior players,
Right.
which is also an important issue as someone's coming up to
In music.
in
yeah.
music and maybe even especially in jazz and associated, I don't know what you would call them, urban musics,
Right.
popular urban musics.
Absolutely,
You know?
absolutely. So, after high school, I went on the road. We were doing R&B and funk, that
Yeah.
type of thing. We played behind Al Green for a minute.
Yeah.
Just, shows and
Sure.
stuff.
Yeah.
Came back because I was tired of being in a band and with no direction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which so many bands have
Right.
no direction. Yeah.
And we had went to Philadelphia. We were going to try to get a contract with Gamble and Huff and all of that, but the guys weren't quite where they wanted to be.
Yeah.
They where they should be mentally.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
to do it.
Mature enough
Right.
to take on the
Absolutely.
responsibility. Yeah.
So after that, I said, I'm coming home. I'm going to go to school. And so that's when I went to the conservatory.
Right.
It's about 1974,
Yeah.
somewhere around that
Yeah.
time.
Because I came to the conservatory late in life. Actually, I was like 28 years old when I
Okay.
came in, so I think it was 1977. But that's when I first heard about you. And at first, I just heard about you because he was like, he's the man on drums. You know.
I was learning.
Well, I'm still learning, so it's still a. But that was so now you're at the conservatory, and
Right.
and this is college level, and you might want to describe a little bit the conservatory as a very specific school.
Well, the Wisconsin College Conservatory, which I have to say was really founded by Tony King. Like Tony
Absolutely,
King.
the jazz program.
Yeah, the jazz
Absolutely.
program. Yes,
Right.
thank you. Manti Ellis, Mitch Kovic,
Yeah,
back in the
Mitch,
day,
bass
Tony
player.
Pagano.
sax player, great.
Wow.
Yeah,
I think, and Jack was a little later. Jack
yeah.
Grasso
Jack Grassel was
came in. I actually studied with Telly Lesmont.
Okay, sure.
I studied.
And Telly was a symphony player,
Right,
really.
right.
But he had a great love of jazz music.
Absolutely.
He did, yeah.
But that's where I studied throughout most of my time at the conservatory.
Okay.
Spent a lot of time in the room with Tony King, learning the history of jazz,
Yeah.
as well as life, history,
Yeah,
you
man.
know, learning things about life and so
He was a wise old man.
Yes, he was.
Okay, well, we thought he was old then. Actually, he wasn't. I don't think he
As
was.
old.
I don't think he was as old as I am now when I
Okay,
first met him. Yeah.
So that experience, it was wow. It was awesome experience because at that time there were a lot of the older musicians that were mentored.
Exactly.
I worked with Manti for a long time in Berkeley, having played with Tony Pagano when he was here, and Miss Kovic. But I would have to say one of my most rewarding experiences is the times that I worked with Buddy Montgomery, West Montgomery, the late West Montgomery.
Absolutely. And Buddy lived here in town and was associated with the school for about 5 or 10 years, something like that. Maybe not quite. Maybe.
I think David Baker more so. I don't know how much Buddy was involved with the school.
Oh, okay.
He may have been when I was.
But with the faculty of the school.
Yeah,
maybe
or with the
you know,
faculty.
and then therefore, like you were just saying, he becomes an elder on the periphery of the school faculty, but they were all joined at the hip,
Right.
so to speak.
Right.
You know, so that was great. You got that, and you then remember Jeff.
Oh yeah. Well, this is the thing with this.
Yeah.
Jeff Chambers and I played with Buddy
Yeah.
very early.
Yes.
He was, Jeff was a little bit younger than me, but both of us were at the conservatory. We started working with Buddy at the Bombay Bicycle Club.
Bicycle Club. Yeah.
We started working
At
with him.
the time, the Marcus Hotel.
It was a Marcus.
Marcus.
Marcus. What's it?
Schrader Hotel. Wasn't it?
It was a Marcus.
Okay, all right.
It was a Marcus.
Just yeah.
And anyway, we started working with him and a trio.
Yep.
Then Duma Safir would work with us.
Who is still your great buddy?
Yeah, my drum buddy.
Yes, yeah.
And then besides that, well, there was Brian Lynch, there was Charles Small, there was Harry Kozlowski.
Kozlowski,
Yeah,
the trombone
okay,
man. Yeah.
and Rollo Armstead,
Armstead tenor sax.
and
yeah.
Jeff Chambers, and
Yes.
can't forget Marcus Robertson.
Great piano
Yeah,
player.
and
Incredible piano
yeah,
player.
and we were all like, they called us the 8-ball. That's what Manti would call us, the
Yeah.
8-ball or something.
Yeah.
And so we had a lot of really good experience together, playing
Yeah.
together and playing with the older musicians as well. And I mean, you had people, I think, yeah, Vic Swart was around.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I was like in high school when Vic was there as well.
Okay.
He
Yeah.
was, older,
Right.
but I had a chance to be with him in high school,
Yeah.
playing as well. So he was a great inspiration, at that time.
And
in
he
high school.
really mentored a lot of young players too.
Yes, yes.
You know, I know we might share some crazy stories about Vic, but
Right.
the essence of the guy was
Yeah.
he was very helpful to me.
And actually had done some studying with Vic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Early years, besides studying with Telly.
Right. Was
And Bob Bundy.
Bob
Bob
Bundy.
Bundy,
Mhm.
there's a guy named Tommy Gilliard. He was at that age when I was
Yeah.
still in high school, he was one of the nicest drummers.
Yeah.
And playing jazz
All
at
right.
that time. Wasn't a whole lot of drummers playing jazz.
Right.
When I was in high school.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's a new name to me.
Tommy Gilliard.
Gilliard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He. I don't know where he's at now, but he was very inspiring. At that time. And you can't. Bob Hobbs.
Bobby Hobbs.
Yeah.
Yes, sure. Did Baltimore Bordeaux have any?
I didn't
he
know-
was really hooked up with George.
Yeah, I didn't know, and I played young. I played with so many different people
Yeah.
because I actually played with George.
Okay.
Pretty.
Yes,
I
George.
played with him.
And we're both laughing
And-
because George was a
Yeah,
character and a
I
half.
played with George
Very colorful character.
at the I don't know if it was the Attic or Ad Lib It was downtown.
Yep.
Yeah, I played with him many a night.
Okay. Yeah,
And,
yeah.
So that was another experience
Yeah.
as well.
You know, that brings me to a thought, and the thought about, and you mentioned it a couple of times here about the conservatory, and really at the time that the conservatory was one of very few, I guess, haunts of higher education that had a legitimate jazz program. Not a big band, or I mean, they did have a big band, a
Right.
rehearsal band, not all the time, but sometimes, and but the main thing was like the small group and the bebop influence.
Right.
I mean, we still, even when I was going to school there, people were still scratching "Bird Lives" on
Okay.
the bathroom doors. You know, so
Okay.
that was that. After Bird died, after Charlie Parker died,
Yeah.
of course, "Bird Lives" was a sort of the chant of those people that wanted to carry on his music and thought that, you know, we reached some kind of a golden age there. We can't let this just die.
Right,
This is
right.
something very, very important. And I think, again, the black perspective on education is so important, and the idea, as you said a couple of times too, learning from your elders. Not learning necessarily, there's nothing wrong, and you did study textbooks early in your life, and you did look at the rudimentals of things, but the style of the music has to come from, or should, I think, at least have a big part come from the elders of the practitioners of the music.
Right, I agree with you. There has to be, just like there's always within the, well, I'm sure in many other cultures, but I can just know within the black culture, the whole concept of oral tradition
Yes.
and how things are passed down from generation to generation.
Yeah.
And so, fortunate for me and those who were around my age and so forth at that time, we had those that were part of that 50s.
Right. The
You know?
initial movement.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And they were influencing us to take serious the art form
Yeah.
of jazz.
And that's such a perfect line for me to ask, to put out this statement. This sort of a thing that I had in my head, a question for you as a black man in this music. So if I were to say, throw a statement out there that the jazz, as a definition for the music, as a starting point for a definition of the music, jazz is the artistic response of the black man or
Okay.
woman,
Okay.
the black culture,
Right.
as a response to its American experience.
I would have to say so. The art form of jazz, and I have to say, you know, there's so many different styles within jazz.
Yeah. Although I know there's people say there are, but then there's also the idea that there may be outcroppings or outgrowths,
Mhm.
but there is a main channel,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And that main channel, I think, is what you were going to address there. If you
Well-
were to just address the part that I said, you know, like that it's a artistic response of a certain culture to having been put into a certain situation in a certain land.
I think it's a culmination of the African American experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That's a shorter
It's
and
a
simpler way of saying the
it's-
same thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. It's a way of expressing what you as an African American has experienced in life.
Right.
From your upbringing into your adulthood
Right.
and your ongoing experience within the society in which you live.
Right. And of course, your cultural history.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
you came from,
Yes.
and their experiences in the same situation.
Yes.
You know.
It's like today, if I think about some of our younger black musicians who are more inclined into the hip hop era
Sure.
and so forth. Not even understanding, even rap didn't just start with them, but where rap actually came out of, the Big Bang, Cap Calloway, and all those guys.
Yeah.
You know, rap really
Yeah.
was.
They were rapping back then.
Right, they were rapping
In their own
back
way,
then,
in their
right.
own style, you know.
And the whole tap dance idea, that all kind of really rhythmically
Mhm.
fed into rap.
Yes.
And if you really listen to them,
Oh.
you can say, wow, look at what they were doing, you know, on the dance floor
Mm-hmm.
is being manifested in their young guys and how they rap today. And I'm not talking about so much the lyrics,
No.
I'm talking about the rhythm
Rhythms.
thing
Yes.
of it,
Yeah.
you know. For me, it encompasses the experience I have living in America as a black person,
Mhm.
the whole idea of being able to create music from just ideas
Mhm.
with a framework, but
Right.
create and not be boxed in
Right.
to say that this is what this is.
A written page of
Right,
music.
right. Even when you have music that's being tried to, you know, when people try to interpret the music on a piece of paper, there's no way that you can get the full essence of the music
No.
if you look at it on a score, or if you get a fake book.
Yes.
Because it is
That's right.
actually what it
Yeah.
is, a fake book.
Exactly.
And you have to, how do you interpret
Right.
what's on that page?
Yeah, because with a fake book, you can literally sort of fake the tune. But when you memorize a tune and when you know a tune inside and out, then you can express those ideas you were talking about.
Right.
Your focus isn't brought to the page so much. It's inside yourself.
You know, and that's interesting you say that, because this was something that was really embedded in us as young musicians. I'm talking, me and Brian used to room together.
Okay,
We were
right.
going to conservatory, and Manti, Buddy, Berkeley, all of them would say, look, learn the tune, you know, learn it in all the keys, play everything in every key,
Right.
you know, and that paper you got it, you know.
It's a good start. It gets you
didn't
to
read.
start.
Buddy
Yeah,
didn't even
yeah,
read,
yeah.
you know, but.
And we just want to say
we
one
put-
more time, Buddy Montgomery,
Yeah.
Wes Montgomery, and
Brother.
Monk Montgomery.
Right.
Brother, yeah.
He didn't read, but his ear and
Oh.
his creativity is there's no words to really
Really
describe
aren't.
it. you
Truly
know.
not. Truly not. Yeah.
You can play a tune, but play it different every time. You know, and it's something added, something different,
Right.
and that was one of the things that was, you know,
Pushed on us.
Yeah,
And of course, me too. One of the things that I actually heard Bill Evans say that sort of sums this idea up is it's not that you can play a tune, it's
Mhm.
how you can play a tune. So there's a deeper part to every tune. There's the tune,
right,
the bare naked tune,
right,
and then there's the interpretation that the artist will bring to the tune, if they are truly an artist.
Right.
And in order to do that, you got to get your eyes off the page, and
yeah.
you got to get inside your own head and your own spirit and everything
Right.
to create.
So, and you know, it's that, I think that's one of the hard rules that anyone that really wants to be a jazz artist has to come to grips with.
You have to come to grips with that. I
There's
agree,
a
1000%.
tremendous amount of memorization that has to come
Right,
with playing this
Right.
music. You know?
right. And it's important to understand the history of the titles of the songs that the music has used to nurture itself over many, many, many decades. And so that's why you need to have what you're saying. You need to have that allegiance to history.
Yeah,
Oh,
if you
it's
don't
huge.
know where you come from, you won't know where you're going.
There you go.
And so, musically, you know, any musician today that really wants to play jazz has to go back.
Yeah.
I mean, back to the, the the work songs, back to the music that was done in the South during the field songs. All of that is a part of this music.
Right. The
You know.
development of this music,
Right.
which is again, it ranges from the history of the black man's experience when it first started in this country, and then how that music, under their, I guess you could say, supervisory council,
Mhm.
developed over.
Yeah.
I mean, that's too fancy, but you know, like it developed over all of that time, and everything it's in a clear pathway back. There are all kinds of little offshoots up to it, but there is really, I think, I hear the same elements in music from 70 years, 80 years ago to now, if it's jazz, if it's
Okay.
jazz.
Okay.
And I think there's another thought, and I'd like you to expound on a little bit. I think you actually did. You referenced the form. In other words, it's free, but it's within a certain number of bars or a certain
Framework,
framework.
Yeah.
And that framework also has, and this is something, you know, like I like a lot of different kind of music for just
As well.
for just enjoyment.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of music just doesn't have this one particular thing that jazz has. There are other black musics that are rhythmically complicated and groove like wow. Just groove. You know, you mentioned Al Green, those subtle, almost ballads, but the groove is so heavy in those things. So rhythm is definitely a part of it, but the other part of it is, and I think it's the American part actually, is this idea of changing keys and harmony,
Okay.
which pop music doesn't exploit. Pop music stays in one key usually. You know, it's kind of a blues-based music, you know.
Right.
And hip hop is more like a drone-based music. You can hum ba da 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 one pitch all the way through the song. The rhythms are extremely
Rhythms
virtuosic
can
in some
very
cases.
complex.
Very
at times.
complex, yeah. But the harmony, the underlying harmony isn't there.
No. I've found that today you have musicians, a trumpet player writes great scores. I can't get his name off the top of my head right now. But tremendous trumpet player, doing scores for a lot of films.
Okay.
A lot of films. Been here a number of times. Hopefully he'll come back.
Okay. Yeah.
How he uses the ideas that are contemporary, but yet the improvisation that has been from many years, when you go back to Charlie Parker and Miles and so forth, with how jazz artists would play on top.
Right.
You know, but would use, say, not more modal, or use more rhythm that was repetitious,
Right.
but on top of it, that improvisation was there.
Right.
The freedom that a jazz artist has,
Sure.
you know, it's there.
Right.
And I think today there's I think there might be not a clear understanding what real jazz is.
I agree.
I think,
And it's not. We're not condemning anyone.
No,
By
no.
no means. As a matter of fact, I think we both agree.
well,
like
I
you
mean,
said there.
for one thing, Coltrane playing popular tunes. Charlie Parker played popular tunes. They took tunes that were on the radio that were being played,
Right.
and they played them,
Right.
interpreted them, and improvised on them, changed some harmonies and so forth. Today, it should be the same thing, and it can be the same
Right.
thing.
but it's not.
No, it's
Right.
more. I think they're keeping the rhythmic context of it
Yes,
much the same,
yes,
and maybe playing on the top, improvising on the top of
yeah.
it.
I think rhythm has become the mainstay of music. And look, you're a drummer. You love rhythm. I love rhythm, but rhythm on its own does not make jazz. I think
No.
you know, you have to have that. Tony, remember what Tony always Tony's description was, it's the, I won't try to do Jim Paulo does the best imitation of Tony, but Tony always used to say the same thing again and again. I probably heard him say it 100 times. Jazz is the combination of African polyrhythms and the
Right.
French impressionistic harmony of the 1880s, 1890s.
Okay.
That's where those
Yeah.
seventh chords came from guys like Debussy and Ravel and those, they call them impressionists, you know,
Right.
the French. And I'll never forget him saying that all the time. He said, it's the combination of African polyrhythms
Right.
with incorporated into those frameworks that you said, and then those particular
Embellished
sounding
chords,
embellished
yeah.
chords, exactly, and how those chords move from one to another, where we get our 2-5-1
Right,
ideas
right.
and all that kind of stuff, into much more advanced harmonic movements. But that's what jazz is. It's that amalgam of those two things. You know?
Absolutely.
Without the rhythm, without the African sensibility, that especially
Right. The polyrhythmic.
exactly,
concept,
yeah,
you know.
over rolling over
Right.
bar lines and
Right.
things with meters that suggest momentarily that you might be in a different time signature, but
And-
you're really not.
And I mean, the thing about it too is that if you look at the history of jazz and just even think about how the rhythmic complexity of it evolved
Mm-hmm.
from a baby doll, you know, with
Pretty
that
straight.
bass drum
You bet.
constantly like that,
Yep.
to an Elvin Jones and
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Through the Philly Joe Jones and Max
With
Roach.
Philly
and those
Joe,
and
Max.
Kurt.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
you
the-
know,
yeah, the
and-
list goes nuts in your
yeah,
mind,
it goes
right?
on. Jack DeJohnette.
Yeah.
This,
Sure.
all of this complexity of rhythms and multiplicity of time
Yes.
over time.
Right.
You know, 3 against 4, 4 against 3.
Right.
All of those 7 against 8. you know,
Right.
all of
That is
this.
that creates feelings.
Right.
It waves of emotion in the music. you know?
Right, and most of it, what is exciting to me, is that it's done primarily by the percussion, by the drummer.
Right.
Whereas everything else is pretty much constant. The drummer has been given the freedom
Exactly.
not to just keep time.
Exactly.
You know,
It's really, in my mind, it's not that it's no one's responsibility to keep time for someone else in the group. But I think the bass player is actually more. It's better for the bass player to be more time conscious, or maybe playing a little bit simpler than what they potentially could, so that the drummer can fill in all of the polyrhythmic aspects of the music. It sounds much better that way.
I think it's a hard thing. It's just, I think it's taste.
Yeah.
I think there's that gelling together, especially when you start talking about a rhythm section,
Right.
and how the sensitivity of the bass player with the drummer, and then your percussion piano, the pianist percussion too. And so
Right.
how all of that flows together,
Yeah.
you know, creates a synergy that you can't really
Right.
describe.
Right.
You know, the time is yet there,
Right.
but all these other colors,
Yes.
all these other patterns
Right.
are just, it's like you got this picture that you can see, but then it's like that.
Yeah,
you know,
explodes.
It explodes,
yeah.
you know.
You know, that's such a beautiful thought, because because you know, as a player who's looking for that simpatico between the players, amongst the players, especially the rhythm section, but you know immediately when it's not there.
Right.
You know, it's
right.
like, okay, it's not that you say, oh, well, he can't play. That's not it. It's that the being on that more correct stylistic page.
Okay.
You know,
yeah.
like
yeah.
then you feel it, and then everybody goes, oh, this is going to be great. You know, but when it's somebody's, again, they can be a wonderful player on their instrument.
Right.
They can play the poop out of their instrument, but they're not grooving with the rhythm section. You
Right.
know, and that's what we want.
Right.
This
we,
music
we look
demands
for that.
that.
We look for that in any set. You
Right.
know, is that especially your rhythm section.
Yes.
You know,
right.
where if the rhythm section doesn't drive the music, then you just got notes.
Right.
You know, you just got
Sometimes I feel, and I guess we've said a number of times now, African polyrhythms.
Mhm.
It's not Norwegian polyrhythms. You know,
Well,
and not
true
that,
that.
you know what I'm
True
saying?
that.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not Canadian polyrhythms, you know, it's not Eskimo polyrhythms, it's African polyrhythms. And that's the thing that drives, and in that style, the horn players, well, they're skying. They don't even know why they're playing so good sometimes, I think, you know.
Probably.
They're just feeling that rhythm section, and the rhythm section is gelling, and it's off and running. Listen, Sam, I got to tell you, this is great interview, and thank you so much for. I hope we can
Appreciate
do this again. You'll be appearing with me down in the 3rd Ward here within a month or so. I'm going to call you for a date on that, and there'll be more of those. So we'll get to play together again.
Well, you might be working with me Friday.
Okay, well, give me a call. You know, we'll see what happens. But and this we'll wrap it up for right now. I want to thank you so
Appreciate it.
much, man.
Thank you
really,
for the privilege.
and I have to speak just a little bit. We forgot to mention where we are. We are at Sam's CityNet Cafe, which is down on in Milwaukee, of course. That's where we are.
Right.
And we're on Wisconsin Avenue, Wisconsin and Broadway.
Right, 306 East Wisconsin.
306 East Wisconsin. And
The jazziest coffee house in town.
it is. It's the most jazziest. Yeah. So come on down and grab a cup of coffee and a sandwich. Great food too. Your daughter is cooking here most of the time, right?
Yes, she is. Yes, she is.
And so once again, thank you to Sam Belton. Thanks for the courtesy of letting us use the CityNet Cafe. And we're off until the next time.